Hello, everyone. Welcome to AP Sources Simplified. Right now, we're in our test review mode, and we are looking at causation. And the content for today is World War I. So we're looking at the causes of World War I and why did the U.S. get involved in World War I. If we were in a world history class, our main kind of reasons we'd look at is the acronym MAIN. So militarism, European militaries had been increasing their military strength for decades. Alliances, the alliance system made it more likely that even if a country was not attacked, they had to get involved because an ally was attacked. Imperialism, European powers were competing and struggling for power in the world stage as they took over Asian and African countries. And nationalism, strong uniting force within countries. That helped Germany and Italy, but it also caused a lot of problems within empires, like the Austro-Hungarian Empire, where the war initially breaks out with the assassination of Franz Ferdinand by a Serbian nationalist, and also the Ottoman Empire. So these are the reasons in world history. And the war breaks out in 1914. But the United States doesn't get involved until 1917. So these are not the reasons for the U.S. involvement in World War I. For those, we need to first kind of take a look at foreign policy prior to World War I. So first, let's take a look at recent foreign policy of the previous presidents running up to World War I. First off, you had Teddy Roosevelt with his big stick, meaning strong military foreign policy. He focused on America becoming a major world power and the ability for America to exert its influence. He really wanted to kind of follow in the model of the European countries like Germany and Great Britain of establishing some sort of overseas empire. And he focused more so on Latin America. Then the next president after him was Taft, and that was dollar diplomacy he used. So he wanted to use the great economic might of the United States to exert influence. By this point in time, America either has the strongest economy or the second strongest economy to Great Britain in the entire world. And so with that, we're able to, both with our private business, but also our government, able to, throw some dollars around the world and buy influence. And then we had President Wilson, and his was a Wilsonian democracy. So lead by a democratic example. And he'll have some very strong ideas about like free trade and free markets and exporting American democracy abroad. So a very idealistic kind of foreign policy. But all three of these kind of go together for what we have for our foreign policy today. So as mentioned before, the war breaks out in 1914, and the U.S. does not enter. It's for a couple of different reasons. One is the war is mostly on European soil, dealing with European powers. And going back to Washington's farewell address way back in period 3 for APUSH, Washington had warned the U.S., trade with the rest of the world, but stay out of European alliances and European wars. And the majority of the public was not clamoring for war either. There were many recent German immigrants, and it was iffy on where their alliances would be. And there is no real bad guy in World War I. There are no Nazis. And it really kind of looks like, a war just between major powers of Europe, struggling for influence and control. And Wilson's re-election campaign completely centered around how, quote, he kept us out of war. You can see the campaign button over there on the right. And Wilson was able to win re-election on that. Now, the U.S. does trade with warring countries, mostly with Great Britain and France. This is partly because Great Britain controls the seas, has control of the Atlantic Ocean. Well, they have control of the Atlantic Ocean above the water, but German U-boats are disrupting trade under the water. And there are attempts to destroy any armaments that are going between America and Great Britain. And officially, America was not supposed to be trading guns with Great Britain. It was just supposed to be trading things like food. However, this was being done. So this leads to some problems for the U.S. So the first of these incidents happens in 1915 with the sinking of the Lusitania. It had over 100 Americans on it and actually over 1,000 people on it. German submarines had suspected that it was carrying armaments, which would break some international treaties. And they sunk the ship, and the American press didn't talk about how there might have been armaments on that. They just kind of played up the fact that it was over 100 Americans on there, and this was seen as an act of aggression. President Wilson gave a stern warning to Germany not to ever do that again. And Germany responds to say, okay, we'll have the Sussex Pledge. We agree to visit and search all vessels before sinking them to confirm if they actually have armaments or not. In January 1917, Germany resumes unlimited submarine warfare. This is because Germany was suffering greatly from a blockade that the British had on them, and Germany couldn't have a blockade in return on Great Britain. So Great Britain was able to tap into its vast colonial resources, while Germany was fast running out of resources, especially food. And they decided to just throw all their eggs into one basket of trying to cut their rival off, Great Britain, from resources. So they said, all right, we're going to resume unrestricted submarine warfare and try to cut Great Britain off as well, just like they've cut Germany off. Then the next month, the Zimmermann telegram comes out, and Germany asks Mexico to declare war on the U.S. And in return, Germany will help Mexico regain the Southwest. Now, the Southwest, which would be Mexico's Northwest, that's like California, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Mexico had lost that many years earlier, decades earlier in the Mexican-American War. Now, Mexico is not going to go along with this plan. However, this is published in the American press, and the public and the president are outraged that Germany would propose this to its neighbor, Mexico. Then in March 1917, the Russian Revolution deposes the Tsar, and it really looks like Russia is on the verge of leaving the war. This would be great for Germany, who could then focus more of its resources on the Western Front. And this might lead to a German victory if the U.S. does not step in. So early in April, Wilson will ask Congress for a declaration of war. Now, notice it is a large majority that do vote in favor of war, but there are some. We have 50 in the House who dissent and 6 in the Senate. The war is still not incredibly popular. There are a lot of Americans who are outraged over what Germany has done, but it's not like World War II, where America had been, a military base had been directly attacked. There are some other reasons and arguments for war too. In Wilson's speech, he'll make the argument that the United States needs to make the world safe for democracy, characterize Germany and the Central Powers as the aggressors, and Germany and the Central Powers had lost the public relations battle in the U.S. Even early on in the war, when Germany had invaded Belgium, the American press had played up basically Germany as the aggressor, and that they did a whole bunch of atrocities in Belgium. Some of these things were exaggerated, but Germany was not doing well as far as public relations go in America. And Wilson implies that Germany, if they win, they will threaten democracy everywhere. And this fits with Wilson's own foreign policy beliefs of Wilsonian democracy. Wilson also has grand ideas for a post-war world of free trade and ending colonialism and a variety of things that he would see as a very idealistic world if all of his ideas could come to fruition. So this might be a chance for that. There's also some other reasons too, though. One is American businesses and bankers, they had a lot of ties to Great Britain and France, especially Great Britain. A lot of money had been loaned from American banks to Great Britain so they could continue fighting the war. The war was extremely expensive for these European powers. So if Great Britain and France lost, it would have been devastating to the American financial system. They could not expect those loans to be repaid, because then they would have to be repaying Germany for being on the losing end of the war. So you have kind of the more idealistic kind of reason here for making the world safe for democracy, and maybe less idealistic, but just more pragmatic when it comes to the financial system. All right, those are the main reasons for World War I. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more AP review and explanation of AP sources.